9 million square kilometers of land. That's the size of all of the Sahara Desert, but for some reason people still think that there is simply no secrets to be uncovered underneath that golden rug. If you're one of those people, that's about to change really soon. From ancient mega lakes that are 250,000 years old to chunks of a protoplanet, this huge ecosystem is home to a number of mysteries that we're working hard to uncover. Join us as we explore all the mysteries that have been discovered beneath the sand. Starting with the most surprising one of all. In the spring of 2020, a very rare piece of embryonic planet was found in a remote part of the Sahara Desert. What was so amazing about this discovery, you ask? Well, this stone was around even before Earth was born. It's hard to imagine what the solar system looked like back then, but this meteorite is giving us some answers. Named Erg-Chek 002 or EC002, the meteorite was said to be made in the crust of an ancient protoplanet. If you haven't heard of it before, a protoplanet is a small celestial body that acts as a building block for planets. And if you're wondering how this meteorite was named, we have an answer for that too. The EC002 got its name from where it landed in the Erg-Chek Dune Sea in Algeria. When it was studied, the scientists concluded that it was made up of several meteorites and weighed about 70 pounds. Beautiful crystals were also discovered in the rocks, and because of erosion on Earth, they were able to deduce that the sample was clearly from another planet. This volcanic space rock is the oldest known lava that has ever fallen to Earth. According to a study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And now that we're in possession of it, scientists are offered a unique look into how planets were formed in the early days of the solar system. A group of scientists led by Jean-Alix Barrot, a geochemistry professor at the University of Western Brittany in France, jumped at the chance to look at this unique time capsule from when the solar system was young. And they've said that it's unlike anything else they have ever seen. As soon as the team heard about this rock for the first time, Barrot knew it was something different. They had already worked on another research project that studied another rare andesitic meteorite in a 2014 study, so he and his colleagues already had some clues as to how old the EC002 might be. But of course, age was not the only thing they cared about. They are also very curious to learn where these extraterrestrial andesitic melts came from. And they wanted to find out how the first crusts formed, and hopefully they'll be able to learn all of this from these samples. Another conclusion that Barrot arrived at was that this meteorite wasn't new to planet Earth. It had a little bit of weathering, and thanks to a previous study from the Tatooine meteorite, they also knew that the weathering took place pretty fast, even in the middle of the Sahara. Once they got their hands on the meteorite samples, Barrot and his colleagues were able to figure out when this piece of protoplanet crust, which was part molten lava at some point, turned solid. And yes, the answer is in the billions. Actually, the rock is about 4.566 billion years old to be precise. By looking at the magnesium and aluminium content in the rock, they were able to calculate just how old it was. And now we know that this piece of rock is the oldest piece of igneous crust ever found on Earth. Compared to NWA 11119, the next oldest igneous meteorite, the EC002 is 1.24 million years older. And let's not forget that the Earth is newer than both of these rocks because it came into existence after they did. And no, that's not even the most unusual thing about it. Aside from its unparalleled age, EC002 is also known for its unusual composition. The meteorite is 58% silicon dioxide, which indicates that its ancient parent body had a crust made of andesite rock. This is strange because the crust should have been made from basalt, which is a much more familiar material found in volcanically active regions of the Earth. Again, this proved that the rock originated somewhere else. Scientists assume that these andesitic crusts were probably available in high numbers in asteroids and protoplanets during the early days of the solar system. But as billions of years passed, they became extremely scarce, mainly because during this turbulent time, these ancient protoplanets were either incorporated into larger bodies like Earth, or they were blasted apart by collisions with other rocks. In short, it was chaos. Another reason why ECO02 is clearly distinct from all asteroid groups is that we just haven't found any object with spectral characteristics similar to that of ECO02. The team working on the study added that primordial crust remnants are not only rare in the meteorite record, but they're also rare today in the asteroid belt. So to find evidence of one is every scientist's dream, but also very, very hard. Still, the researchers have come up with their own theory after observing the rock. They believe that ECO02 was ejected from its parent body by a similar encounter, and this happened only a few decades after the protoplanet's crust cooled and crystallized. This revealed incredible new details about planets evolving embryos before the Earth existed. Barrett stated that he and his colleagues are still working on other studies regarding ECO02. All of these studies will help them learn more about the composition of the magma that is produced during a protoplanet's early activity. And in turn, it will help scientists like Barrett deduce a lot about the formation of its crust. It's a win-win situation for everyone. Can you see just how much we learned about our solar system thanks to a single discovery from the Sahara Desert? We can only imagine what else we could learn about our planet if scientists decided to search all 9 million kilometers of it. However, until then, let's look at another major discovery that shocked us. We're talking about an ancient megalake that lies beneath the desert. Scientists have found proof that a huge lake existed in the past under the sands of the Sahara Desert. When the Nile River went through a low channel near Wadi Tushka about 250,000 years ago, it flooded the eastern Sahara and made a lake that, at its highest level, covered more than 42,000 square miles. This megalake was 810 feet above sea level, while a smaller lake rose to about 623 feet above sea level and covered 18,600 square miles. It was Ted Maxwell, a geologist at the National Air and Space Museum, and his colleagues who stumbled upon signs of the lake. They had been looking at radar data from Egypt that had been collected by the Space Shuttle Radar Topography mission. These geologists made a profile of the old megalake by putting together pictures of wind-blown sediments made by running water, and bedrock seen by radar under the desert sands. Because Egypt is very dry, the radar was able to find clear features below the surface. In fact, buried channels could be seen up to 50 feet below the surface. The Qusayba Oasis is the most southern oasis in Egypt and lies on this ancient waterway. The water is currently 6.5 to 9.5 feet below the surface, and the land was just tilled so that it can be used to grow melons. So the water from 250,000 years ago is helping us with farming even today. Now isn't that something? And it turns out that the Nile may have once flooded the entirety of the Qusayba Tushka Depression in Egypt and made the huge lake. They arrived at this conclusion by looking at fossil fish found in deposits about 250 miles west of the Nile and 810 feet above sea level. Not to mention, scientists also found that Paleolithic settlements near Salima and Tarfawi in Egypt match up with a lake that was about 42,000 square miles in size. This is because the people who live there chose to stay close to the water. Similarly, a different set of archaeological sites was found near Qusayba, which is 93 miles west of the Nile. This pointed to a second, lower level of the lake that we mentioned earlier. And by reading the height of the Tushka Channel, which used to carry water from the Nile into the desert, scientists were able to figure out just how big the second lake was. And with this discovery, not only do we have evidence of bodies of water that existed in the middle of the desert, but this adds to the growing evidence of numerous early and middle Pleistocene lakes across North Africa that could have supported human migration patterns. And this brings us to our next discovery, which may very well surprise you even more. According to scientists, this vast desert was not a desert thousands of years ago, but rather a vast rainforest. As recently as 6,000 years ago, the vast Sahara Desert was covered with grasslands where it rained quite a bit. But because of sudden changes in the world's weather patterns, this once green area turned into some of the driest terrains on Earth. Robert Corti, an associate professor in the Department of Atmospheric Sciences, and William Bose, a colleague at Yale University, are working together to learn more. The two researchers looked at how the rain fell during the Holocene period and compared it to another large area with heavy tropical rain. Using computer models and other data, the researchers found links to the way rain fell thousands of years ago. So what happened to cause such a drastic change? Well, the answer is very complicated and has to do with tropical rain belts. But what you need to know is that scientists too can't figure out how this rain belt moved so far north of the equator. Because when it moved, it took away the rain with it, leaving the Sahara without the source of water it relied on. But now that they know that this happened in the Sahara, studying it can give them answers for the future. It happened before and it can happen again. And by studying the weather changes in the Sahara, they may be able to deduce how the weather will change in other parts of the world too. Plus, there's another reason the Sahara Desert came to be. Farmers in the area overgrazed grasses in cattle grazing areas. This resulted in less moisture in regions over time because the wildlife that held moisture in this region was quickly eaten up by animals. These nomadic humans in the region probably also used fire as a land management tool, which may have accelerated the pace of events in the region, just like the excessive deforestation we are witnessing today. And where there is water, you can probably find animals too, right? Well, scientists found evidence of terrifying animals that walked these lands. One thing they learned was that the seas were once home to a terrifying ancient crocodile the size of a bus. Paleontologists searching throughout Tunisia made this massive discovery. They found the world's largest sea-dwelling crocodile that hadn't been found before. This prehistoric crocodile was estimated to be more than 30 feet long and weighed around 3 tons. The skull alone measured more than 5 feet in length. Of course, this new guy had to be named, and researchers settled on Machimorsaurus rex as they revealed their findings in the journal Cretaceous Research. The lead author of the study, Federico Fanti of the University of Bologna, said that the crocodile was massive, and that's when Fanti explained that it was so big it was almost as big as a bus. He also thought that the creature was definitely at the top of the food chain when it lived, or at least where it lived. That sounds obvious. With the help from the National Geographic Society Committee for Research and Exploration, Fanti and his team found the fossils buried under a few inches of sediment on the edge of the Sahara Desert in Tunisia, a country where a lot of fossils have already been discovered. So while it wasn't too surprising to find a fossil, they were amazed by how beautiful these fossils were. The skull was buried deep, so it took Fanti and his team 2 days to dig all of it up, while the rest of the body was just lying there. A perfect treasure for people who want to study the past. Since then, researchers have found the bones of fish and turtles in this area, and they're still trying to figure out what they are. Because of the presence of so many sea animal fossils, this place was probably a lagoon that faced the ocean. Fanti believes that the M. rex was absolutely capable of hunting in the water. Most probably, it was a predator that waited to ambush its prey. When M. rex was compared to other crocodiles with big heads and short teeth, studies showed that the newly discovered animal had a very strong bite that allowed it to crush its food. Even something as hard as turtles would have been a great food source for the M. rex. And yet, once again, there's more to the fossil than just how big it is. According to Fanti, it calls into question what we thought we knew about our history. We had once thought that M. rex's group of crocodiles died out at the end of the Jurassic period around 150 million years ago. But this M. rex lived about 130 million years ago, so the numbers don't add up. There was earlier research that said there was a big global extinction between the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods that killed off many marine reptiles. This group was a part of the animals that should have gone extinct. And here we have this fossil which proves that the M. rex lived thousands of years after the mass extinction was thought to have happened. There goes another theory that's lost its credibility. All of this uncertainty led Fanti and his team to declare that the mass extinction theory was wrong, and scientists needed to get to work and learn more about what really happened at the end of the Jurassic period. But hang on, scientists have found another strange animal in the Sahara. Scientists from Egypt found what they described as a fossil of a whale with 4 legs. It turns out this animal lived around 43 million years ago but is now extinct. Yes, you heard that right, a whale that can walk. Scientists who conducted the study stated that this creature had unique skull features, plus its mandible suggests a capacity for more efficient oral mechanical processing. In other words, these walking whales had a strong predatory feeding style. One of the scientists was eager to share his take on the discovery. Abdullah Gohar told everyone that the animal was probably dangerous and dangerous enough to kill. In other words, once the whale spotted you, there was a little chance of escape. The scientist compared the whale to today's killer whale, which is bad enough, but can you imagine if the killer whale simply walked onto land and started eating everything in sight? That would be terrifying. The scientists named the new whale Phyomycetus Anubis after Anubis, the canine-headed Egyptian god associated with mummification and the afterlife. Surprisingly, the researchers explained that at one point whales had been herbivores. They were similar to deer in that way, but at some point they shifted and became meat-eaters. The discovery of this walking whale is a step in the right direction, no pun intended, and maybe we will soon be able to point out exactly when these whales changed their diet so drastically. The Sahara is a treasure trove of fossils, and another discovery that we came upon was none other than a bulldog-faced dinosaur. A spectacular crested dinosaur with a massive sail was discovered in the Sahara, and of all the animals it could resemble, it looked like a giant bulldog if you ask scientists. The terrifying Cretaceous period carnivore was around 20 feet long and weighed 3 tons. Like most of our discoveries, it too was most likely the top predator in its territory. The unnamed theropod is an abelisaurid and a cousin of the dreaded Tyrannosaurus rex. The 98 million-year-old neckbone fossil was discovered by scientists at the Bahariya Oasis, about 180 miles southwest of Cairo. This location would have been one of the most terrifying places on the planet at the time, according to lead author Bilal Salem, a new graduate student at the Biological Sciences program at Ohio University. The dinosaur was described by researchers as a bulldog faced with small, razor-sharp teeth. It had stubby arms like its T-Rex cousin, but its massive claws made it even more dangerous, if that is even possible. They believe it was a vicious killer with a razor-sharp bite, a keen sense of smell, and incredible speed. In fact, it could even hunt Spinosaurus, who famously defeated a T-Rex in Jurassic Park 3. The dinosaur lived near a river that ran through the Sahara, which was lined with mangrove-like trees. The spinal sail, which was formed by elongated vertebrae connected by a membrane, was its most striking feature. And what else did they learn from the discovery? A series of flat bones beneath the skin reached a length of 6 feet and were surrounded by a web of fine veins. The blood pumped through them to color the sail. It could have changed color to attract a mate, frighten an enemy, or regulate body temperature by absorbing heat. Salem further explained the origins of the creature discovered. In a university press release, he mentioned how abelisaurids were extremely diverse and one of the most dreaded predators in the Cretaceous period. And now the discovery of this dinosaur just allows them to add another predator to their catalog. Spinosaurus and 2 other giant theropods, Odontosaurus and Bahariosaurus, can now welcome another abelisaurid fossil to their party. The discovery of the new dinosaur demonstrates the extensive geographic range of abelisaurids in North Africa, as well as the exceptional diversity of large-bodied dinosaurs from Egypt. According to Salem, this dinosaur group appears to have stretched across most or all of northern Africa during the late Cretaceous period. It implies that the Trans-Saharan Seaway was not a significant barrier to the spread of large-bodied theropods during the period. Interestingly, several of these species, including Spinosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, Bahariosaurus, and Deltadromeus, grew to be as enormous as the Tyrannosaurus rex, according to Salem. The new abelisaurid verifies the presence of a 4th medium-sized to large theropod taxon in the Bahariya Formation paleoecosystem, despite plainly referring to a much smaller-bodied species. Makes you wonder what other species of dinosaurs are hiding under all that sand, doesn't it? Well, dinosaurs aside, we have to talk about another marvelous rock that offered us a bounty of information. The research was written up in the Royal Society Journal of Open Science, and it states that a stone found in the Sahara Desert is the first proof of the most powerful event in the universe. Researchers from the University of Johannesburg think that the stone Hypatia, which was found in 1992, is the first physical proof of a supernova Type 1a explosion, which is one of the most powerful events in the universe. Researchers put together a timeline of Hypatia's birth that goes back to when Earth, the Sun, and the other planets in our solar system were just starting to form. They did this by finding a series of very strange clues in the chemical makeup of a small piece of the stone. Their theory is that Hypatia was born when a red giant star, which in essence is a dying star, collapsed into a white dwarf star. After a large dust cloud broke apart, this white dwarf star found itself in a binary system with another star. They both ended up orbiting the same mass center, but the hungry white dwarf star eventually ate the other star and then blew up. That's when it caused a supernova Type 1a explosion inside the nebula. Once the cooling process was completed, gas atoms from the supernova Type 1a explosion began to stick to nebula particles, and that led to the formation of Hypatia's parent rock. At some point, it started hurtling towards Earth, but the heat of entering Earth's atmosphere and the force of hitting Egypt's Great Sand Sea broke Hypatia's parent rock, something we've all heard of countless times. And finally, a small piece of that formation finally landed on Earth and offered us a look at the event that gave birth to it. Over the years, the Sahara Desert has collected treasures from all over the world and even from our own solar system, and it's still helping us find answers to questions we never thought we'd be able to answer. One that can't help but wonder what else might be hiding underneath all of it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.